Hello everyone, Fertility Journals here. If you're new, thank you so much for watching. I decided to start this YouTube channel after undergoing 12 cycles of IVF. In my channel, you will find all 12 cycles documented. They are raw video journals, but they're so inspirational and motivational. They've helped so many people. I thought I'd document those and share those with you because infertility is a beast. And so if you need some source of hope, motivation as you undergo your experience, I think you'll find those valuable. Now, every once in a while, I do get one of you that emails me directly and asks me questions about something in your journey, something you have questions about. And so if I find that that question will benefit the masses, I'll hop on here and then I'll answer it so that other people can find motivation and inspiration and perhaps, learn a tip or two, just like I did. I learned a lot from the YouTube space. It was the reason for my success ultimately. YouTube was amazing. The infertility community is awesome. Brave women and men hopping on here and sharing their experience. Today, I'm going to share with you a little bit of information about the milestones of IVF. I got asked this question because one of my viewers is really undergoing a difficult time in their journey. And so they wanted to kind of know some information about what I meant by milestones, particularly when my IVF cycles did not work. If you are interested in milestones during IVF, stay tuned. The first milestone in IVF, guys, that is really, really important and critical and key is the retrieval process. To just make it to the retrieval stage, I can't even tell you the importance of that milestone. I'll share with you my personal experience. IVF was not an option for us. In fact, we were told immediately by our first doctor, before we changed doctors 4 doctors later, that we needed to go straight to donor. Now at the time, obviously, I wasn't prepared to hear that information. But they were really trying to save me money and save me time, and they wanted my first cycle to work. But if you are like me, I wanted to give my own eggs a chance. And so it was very interesting when I found my own doctor, who 4 doctors later, who was able to really connect with my experience and give my eggs a chance. I could not believe that I actually made it to an egg retrieval cycle. The reason why that is such a milestone is because protocol, starting that journey, even having the follicles, the little follicles I had left, the eggs that were continuously being diminished by doctors, that they were not big enough, that they were small, but they were still there. They were my eggs, whether it was 1, whether it was 2. And there was all this thing about size, like it needed to be a specific size when we know that they could be cultured in the lab. So I am so happy I found my doctor, Dr. Frank Yelian of the Life IVF Center. He specializes in all IVF, but then women my age also, we belong, and many women my age are at his clinic and have really been maximized their chances there, for lack of a better word, I would say. And so the fact that he gave me a protocol, was patient with my eggs, the few eggs that I had, sometimes 1, and the fact that we made it to an egg retrieval. Thank you, Jesus. The second milestone in IVF is a miracle in itself. And I can't tell you how many times I joked with my husband, Ricky, and I said to him, whenever there was a retrieval, I was like, okay, let's get to you now, honey. Let's get to you now. Because that's fertilization, is the blessing when your egg and your husband or your partner's little guys get together. And my clinic at the Life IVF, in order to maximize the chances of that happening, particularly in us older women, our eggs are really, really old, and they tend to kind of like, older eggs, they tend to harden. It's not as easy. So in my clinic, they actually do ICSI, and it's not an extra cost. And so it was so amazing just to be able to, especially the first time, guys, when I came from not being able to do IVF with my own eggs to be able to do it, and that miracle of my egg and my husband's little guys, like coming together, the union of life, and to get that notification that the egg fertilized. What a milestone. The third milestone in IVF is when your egg and your husband partners, donors, little guys get together. There's that union, that miracle of life. And then it starts to populate and it becomes a morula, the morula stage. Oh my goodness, guys. The morula stage is so full of hope because the morula stage, or what they call the day 3 stage, some people do day 3 transfers, and some people who do day 3 transfers have been successful. The only reason, as you guys follow my journey, if you're new, make sure you watch my older videos about this. But the only reason we did not do a day 3 is because when you do a day 3 transfer and it doesn't work, there's really no information other than the fact that it was day 3. And so we were those type of people who needed to understand why things were not working. And so we couldn't continue doing day 3 fresh transfer or day 3 frozen because there was nothing that the doctor would say, either let's try again. And so that was the only reason we didn't continue with day 3. But there are people out there who, I think it's worth it to try one time. We did it twice, just didn't work for us. But day 3 is such a blessing because that is when the miracle of life happens. In fact, I think in the IVF community, guys, there was this whole talk about like day 3 was the longest it could go outside the body and that it needed to be put back inside the body in the mother's, ovaries so that it can be nurtured correctly. There was this whole thing back in the day about that. And so you can imagine if your embryo and your husband, partners, donors, little guys got together in union and made it to morula, what a miracle that is. The fourth milestone of IVF is the day 5 embryo. The day 5 embryo. Da-da-da! My IVF journey, guys, I did 12 cycles. My IVF journey completely changed when I started waiting until day 5. Now, that doesn't mean that all my cycles made it to day 5, but let me tell you, thank God for all the YouTubers that convinced me through the experience to do a day 5 embryo. The day 5 is such an important milestone because that's when you see life happening. First off, those little cells in the morula stage, day 5, it becomes 100 plus cells. And you know what that means, guys? That's information. The embryologist can grade it so you can kind of see what you're producing for the very first time when you're going through this process. So they give it like a grade. And the grade has different numbers, and it's usually a number and then 2 letters after. And the number is the grade, and then the first letter rather is supposed to be the inside of it, what the embryologist from the expertise can say the inside of the baby is, so they give it like a letter grade. And then the second letter is the placenta, so the ability for that embryo to latch, the placenta rate, as they call it, for lack of a better word. Remember, I'm not a medical professional, just relaying for you what the embryologist kind of talked me through. So for example, what I consider the best IVF cycle we ever had, mind you, it was not a success. We didn't get a baby out of it. What actually happened was that it didn't test genetically normal. But the only reason we were so excited that cycle, and I'm forever grateful that I went through that cycle, is because I had information, and I still do. I still have it frozen. I have all the information from that M baby. But it was a 4 BC. So the letters was 4 BC. So the B was kind of like the baby's insides, and the C was like the placenta, ability for it to latch, I believe. And the 4 grading was what it was. And so it really, because then I could get the motivation to make sense and to plan and budget and continue with my IVF journey, because for the first time I was able to actually get an explanation for things. The day 5 embryo stage, my goodness, what a blessing. That leads me to the next milestone, which is the grading. When the embryologist calls you and tells you the grading and explains it to you, you are just like, oh, that sense of just like hope, belief, and faith, If you're a religious person, you then believe in life because you and your husband, partner, donor, you have created life. My husband and I had created life. This one egg that everybody was saying, I'm a poor responder. They can't retrieve it. Whatever. I mean, let me tell you something. My clinic is so amazing that there was actually, and I'm actually friends with this person on my Instagram. One person from my clinic, they were young, so obviously they were not fighting with age, but they were fighting with, we had similar symptoms outside of the age as symptom, because I have also age-related fertility. But they had diminished reserve and they were poor responders. So then 8mm egg, and any other clinic would not retrieve an 8mm because they need to grow it to 20. You know what they say, it doesn't grow, so they they cancel that or let it wait for the next cycle. Well, in my clinic, they actually retrieved it for that particular patient. And it is her baby that I see every day on Instagram, and she's perfectly healthy and fine. So listen, when I tell you, I don't even have to say anything. You already got the picture. The final milestone in the IVF process, and I will say there are other milestones, but I'm talking about the basics of IVF, and I'll wrap up with this one. The other most important milestone in your IVF journey, before we now move into the transfer phase, is PGTA testing. Phil and Alex, if you ever watch my videos, if you do not know Phil and Alex, you need to know them today. Phil and Alex are a couple who have documented their IVF journey, the most open, the most humbling, teachable moments that I have ever seen when it comes to the IVF journey. As a couple, oh my goodness, they are amazing. You need to subscribe to their channel. Phil and Alex saved me because I was so unsure about PGTA testing. You always hear about PGTA testing, and some say some don't do it, and there's all of this because it is extra money too. So you're kind of like, why am I actually doing it? When Phil and Alex walked us through their miscarriages, so what happened was, just to give you a snapshot of their story, they had embryo banked and they had frozen embryos that they were slowly going to transfer back in. And every one that they transferred back in out of the embryos that they had did not work, ended up in a miscarriage. And they wanted to know the reason. So they did PGTA on their remaining embryos, and also they tested the miscarriages, to find out what happened. And they were able to find out the reasons. They had transferred up to that point all abnormal embryos. And the very last cycle that Alex was like, she couldn't do it anymore. The one that they had left frozen was actually the only normal one that they had from that batch. Think about the years that they spent, money, time with these transfers. You know what? I just went back and did PGTA, and then the same thing happened to me, guys. I did PGTA when my embryos reached day 5, and I did PGTA on it. Remember that embryo I told you that was a 4BC? We did a PGTA test on it, and the 4BC I know I would have transferred. Why wouldn't I? It was a 4BC, but then sent it to PGA testing, came back abnormal. And get this, because I did not transfer that embryo back in, guys, I was then able to get back on the wagon and continue with my IVF cycle. So I went on to the 6th IVF cycle, and that 6th IVF cycle is Baba. So if I had not retrieved those eggs the next month, because I was busy with this abnormal embryo that would have had no chance of life, which the embryologist told us that Economics, which is the company that does the PGTA, explained, that embryo, the reason why we shouldn't transfer it, we would have transferred it, it would have grown probably up to 6 months, then would have resulted in a DNC. That would have been almost 6, 7, 8 months after Baba's egg came through. So I would have wasted a normal egg if I had gone with that 4BC. So the same thing that, probably happened to Phil and Alex, and decisions they would have made if they had known that majority of their embryos were not good. They would have probably retrieved some more. You just never know. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm PGTA tested. I don't know about y'all, but that was my lessons. And there's so many stories you can hear from YouTube about the PGTA test. The PGTA test, in my experience, saved me from a miscarriage and a DNC, and I just had no time to waste. And from that moment on, I was like, all the embryos retrieved will make it to day 5. If they don't make it to day 5, they were not meant to be. We have reached too far in technology in IVF to worry about, oh, we didn't reach day. No. If it was not going to reach to day 5, it was not going to. And if it is going to reach to day 5, then I am going to get it tested, because I just don't want to rely on the grading, because then what, right? So something for you to think about. And so folks, those are the milestones of IVF. I hope that they give you inspiration and hope. And so know that whatever stage you're in, celebrate the miracle, take a deep breath, get that positive energy in you, and then move on to the next milestone. It's the only way that we can handle these journeys that are so hard to take. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you're new, don't just leave yet. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Would love to have you in this family as we have these conversations. Until my next video, bye.